A quick word before we start. This video uses AI for some of the visuals, some of the animation, and to help pull the research together. If that's not your cup of tea, no hard feelings. The exit's right there, and we won't take it personally. Right, off we go. In 1959, the British Motor Corporation did something that changed the shape of every small car that followed it. They put the engine sideways, drove the front wheels, and called it the Mini. It was small, it was clever, and it was, within a few years, everywhere. Roots Group did not have a Mini. What Roots had was a problem. The car they built to solve that problem carried an engine with a genuinely strange backstory. In 1950, the British government asked engineering firms to design a portable fire pump, half the weight of the existing one, twice the output. Coventry Climax took the job seriously enough to hand it to two of the best engine men in the country, Walter Hassan and a designer named Harry Mundy. What they produced was an all-aluminium overhead cam engine so light and so efficient that the motor racing world took notice. Coventry Climax called it the FW, featherweight, and it did not stay a fire pump for long. By the early 1960s, a descendant of that engine, the FWMA, featherweight, water-cooled, motorcar, Type A engine, found its way to Roots for a compact car project codenamed Apex. Roots licensed the FWMA design from Coventry Climax and made numerous changes for mass production. A revised crankcase casting, a different cylinder head, different cooling arrangements, a larger 875 cubic centimetre displacement, and reversing the engine's rotation to suit the Imp's rear-engine transaxle. The Hillman Imp was not powered by a race car engine. It was powered by the road-going descendant of one of Britain's greatest racing engines. By the time it reached production, it was very much a Roots-built engine with Coventry Climax ancestry. Here is the thing almost nobody mentions about that engine. At the exact same moment Roots was building a family car around it, Colin Chapman was building Lotus's entire reputation on the same underlying idea. Aluminium, overhead cam, light, efficient, built to rev. The 11, the Elite, half of Chapman's early formula cars, all ran Coventry Climax power, descended from the same lineage. Roots and Lotus weren't rivals in that sense. They were, without quite realising it, working from the same gospel. Where to build the thing was, in the end, as much a political decision as an engineering one. The government wanted jobs in Scotland, and Roots wanted the grants that came with putting them there. So the factory went up at Linwood, on the edge of Paisley, a brand new plant, a long way from the rest of the company's supply chain, built because the incentives said to, not because the geography made sense. It would not be the last small British car company to make exactly that trade. What came out of Linwood in 1963 was, on paper, a genuinely clever car. Engineers Mike Parks and Tim Fry, Parks would later go on to drive for Ferrari, gave it the engine in the back, driving the rear wheels, fully independent suspension all round, and a dashboard-mounted rev counter at a time when most family cars didn't think you needed one. Where the Mini used its transverse layout to maximise cabin space, the Imp used a rear engine to give it genuinely sharp, tail-happy handling that owners either loved or found terrifying. It wasn't a copy of the Mini's solution. It was Roots' own answer to the same question, and by most contemporary accounts, mechanically it was the more sophisticated car. And they'd learned the hard way what could go wrong. While evaluating a Chevrolet Corvair, a car notorious for snapping into oversteer on its swing-axle rear end, the design team crashed one at low speed. The lesson stuck. The Imp's rear end got a proper semi-trailing arm independent suspension, the sophisticated solution, while a simpler swing-axle geometry went up front to balance it out. It was the opposite arrangement from the Beetle, and it meant the Imp never earned the Widowmaker reputation that dogged rear-engined cars for a generation. Beyond the standard two-door saloon, Linwood produced a wide-ranging family of Imp-based models. These included the more upmarket Singer Chamois, the Sunbeam Imp, and sporty Sunbeam Californian, along with the practical Hillman Husky Estate and Comma Imp van. Although Linwood, Scotland, was the heart of Imp production, the little rear-engined car had a surprisingly international reach. Imp models were also assembled overseas in several countries, including Australia, Costa Rica, New Zealand, and South Africa, giving the British-designed car a truly global footprint. The Imp was mechanically a superior car in many ways to the Mini, and then it let itself down, though not quite in the way the legend has it. The rear-mounted radiator was undersized, the water pump was weak, and early cars had no temperature gauge, not even a warning light, so a car running hot could do real damage before anyone even noticed. That overheating problem was the root of it. The much-repeated head gasket failures were usually the downstream casualty, not the original sin. And there was a second factor nobody likes to mention. A whole generation of mechanics who'd spent their careers on cast iron engines were now handling an aluminium one, and aluminium does not forgive being treated like iron. Incorrect torque sequences, skipped retorque intervals, the wrong assumptions carried over from a different metal entirely. Root's own engineers had already wrestled hard with the head gasket problem in development and thought they'd solved it. What undid the Imp in the showroom wasn't bad engineering. It was good engineering meeting an unfamiliar material and a service network that hadn't caught up yet. By the 1965 Mark II, most of it was fixed. New water pump, bigger fan, revised gasket. The reputation, of course, was not so easily serviced. It would not be the last small British car to suffer exactly that fate. Strip the reputation away, and the numbers tell a different story. Over 400,000 Imps were built before production ended in 1976. On track, Bill McGovern took the Imp to 3 consecutive British Touring Car Championship titles between 1970 and 1972, a genuinely dominant run for a car people still thought of as the unreliable one. It out-handled cars twice its capacity, embarrassed better-funded teams, and quietly proved that Roots had built something worth taking seriously all along. The last Imp came off the line in 1976. The factory that built it didn't last much longer, but the engine, that strange aluminium fire pump descended little unit, had already found its way into other people's cars, other people's ambitions, other small companies chasing the same lightweight ideal Roots and Chapman had both been chasing from the very start. The Imp went quiet in the showrooms. But the story wasn't finished. Yet. If this is the kind of thing you'd like more of, subscribe and tell us in the comments which forgotten British underdog deserves the same treatment next.
When the road is long and the sky is blue, there's a little friend that's waiting for you. Round the bends with a cheeky grin, nothing beats a Hillman Imp.
Imp, happy as can be, tiny little motor full of personality.
Rear engine singing with a joyful chirp.
Life's more fun in a Hillman Imp.
Not the fastest,
Not the biggest,
but it always earns the
biggest giggles.
wave as every mile goes by. The little imp just loves to fly.
So if your garage needs a classic gem, you'll soon be smiling all over again.
Small in size but big in heart, a Hillman Imp's
A work of art.